Hello, and a very warm welcome to another edition of the Dads Unlimited podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Mike Bell. So, without further ado, very warm welcome to the Dads Unlimited podcast. Mike, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, at the moment, I'm the secretary of the all-party group on issues affecting men and boys. And just at the moment, one of the things we're working on is the idea of getting a minister who's responsible for the issues which affect men and boys. I'm a retired science teacher, and also I have some experience going back to 1980s and in green issues. So I've kind of done a bit of campaigning before, which has kind of given me some skills which I can now use on these issues.
Fantastic. All right, then. So just tell us, first of all, this is a big question, isn't it? What are the key issues that men need support for in the modern age?
Well, I think there are some big ones. I would say the biggest one is in education, that the fact that at every single stage of education, boys are underachieving relative to girls, right from the moment they arrive in primary school, right up to the point at which you're looking at the number of students who complete the course at university, never mind the number who go to university. More male students dropping out than female, all the way through GCSE levels. There's hardly any point at which the boys are doing better than the girls. You know, like grade A's in physics, a few odd bits, but everywhere else they're doing less well. 75% of suicides are male. It's almost treated as oh yeah, men just kill themselves. It's not really treated as an issue. And then you've got this situation again, something which society just seems to accept. 96% of prisoners are male. It's like man does bad thing, man is bad, go to prison. Woman does bad thing. Oh, what are the influences on her life? Has she been traumatized? Rough portrayal in the media. I would say this is something which is perhaps not something that a minister could deal with, but it's quite interesting to see over my lifetime how the portrayal of male characters has become steadily more negative. You know, like Homer Simpson kind of making men out to be fools or violent. And then, of course, there's this problem which isn't just for fathers, but is particularly for fathers in the family court, that there seems to be a general presumption and even some effort to prove that men are intrinsically dangerous to their own children. And the consequence of this, we also see in education, is fatherlessness. And it turns out that it doesn't actually have to be the biological father. Stepfathers and other significant males in the life of a young man seem to be very, very, very important. And society seems to have kind of be brushing that aside at the moment. I remember, I think it was Robert Bly in a book, 20, 30 years ago, saying a girl grows into a woman naturally, but a boy only becomes a man in the company of older men. And I think there's some truth in that, and I think we've forgotten.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and thanks for obviously I know that's a real brief summary of it, and then there's obviously all the mental health stuff. I suppose from my point of view, just looking at it outside, looking in a sense, is at least it's being discussed now, and at least it's being talked about. So I know obviously one of the key parts of your role is to try and find or get in place a Minister for Men role. So talk me through that, how that came about, and why you think it's important.
Okay, well, on as the APPG, obviously we've been working on some of these issues, male suicide and boys' education. And the thing which strikes us when we try to get anything done is the complete lack of interest. That is, there is one mechanism which you can use, which parliamentarians can use, is a parliamentary question. So if they write the question in a particular way and put it in, the minister is required to answer that question, usually within 7 days, or to give a reason why he hasn't. And generally speaking, these questions are answered. But you want to look at the answers. I mean, they don't have a plan for reducing male suicide. And when they've asked when people have asked questions about boys' educational underachievement, the answers almost universally are around achievement. That is, they don't even recognize boys' underachievement as an issue. They recognize class as an issue. That is, that white working class boys are underachieving. They recognize North versus South as an issue, but not this glaring thing that every single boy on average, if you know what I mean, is underachieving, even though their intelligence is the same. Now, this being the case, what is needed is somebody to just, hold their hand up just go, you've forgotten the boys, or what about dads, again and again and again, because I think we've just forgotten about them. Because obviously, during my lifetime, there's been a lot of work for women and girls, quite correctly. When I was a young man and went to university, there were far more places at university for boys than for girls. And that was obviously wrong. And at a certain point, it was still possible to pay a woman less than a man for the same job. Of course, that's become illegal. So life has changed, and we've been doing this sort of a go girl culture. Do you know what I mean? So if a young woman gets to university, people make a lot of fuss because it's great, but somehow or other, men have been left in the background and then have started to become demonized. So we need like a champion, just somebody whose portfolio is to say, well, what about the boys?
Yeah, and it's such what I find interesting, and obviously I'm talking about it from a male perspective. But what I always find really quite amazing is that there isn't an understanding of how you always need balance in everything. You need, if it goes too far one way, then it's not a good thing, and if it goes too far the other way, it tends to be not be a good thing as well. What sort of objectives do you think a minister for men would have in their portfolio? What sort of, I suppose, one way of putting it is, what does success look like from your point of view? If we were going on, say, I don't know, 2-3 years, Minister for Men's in place or being in place, what sort of changes might we see? What sort of goals do you think they would be working on?
Well, I think that they could work on, if you take an issue like male suicide, for instance. Now, at the moment, the majority view in the profession is that male suicide is roughly the same as female suicide. That people get depressed for whatever reason, and when they're feeling really, really bad, they try to kill themselves. This turns out to be incorrect. That's a description, on average, of female suicide, and that male suicide is different. That is, for many men, committing suicide is the logical conclusion from having failed to solve practical problems in their lives. It's not primarily, obviously, it has a mental component, but it's primarily, I've lost my family, I've lost my house, I've lost my job, I really can't see a way ahead. Now, if we could get a recognition that this was the main issue behind male suicide, which some organizations do. For instance, if you take an organization like Andy's Man Club, they take quite a different approach than, say, Samaritans. And they recognize that in order to get men to talk, you can't just say, men should talk more. I mean,
yeah.
Somebody actually showed me that there actually is an NHS poster in hospitals saying men should talk more? Well, the answer is men are perfectly happy to talk, but only in the ways in which men tend to talk. That is, and if you go to an Andy's Man Club meeting, they don't sit down and say, "Hello, everybody, and how are you feeling?" You know, they actually ask some ordinary everyday questions first and create the environment in which people feel secure. Because, you know, we've got to recognize men and women evolved over, 3 million years, 100,000 years, whatever it is. And men evolved as the protectors of the tribe and the family. So, we evolved not to be too concerned about our own issues, and certainly not to show that we're upset in front of the women and children.
Yeah, I think that we're always. This strikes me actually, because I think we're always, in truth, trying to fight what is in our natural DNA from arguably Stone Age times. So, society probably wouldn't function if we didn't adapt. But at the same time, there are elements of this, and I think this has been proven many times, hasn't it? That there's elements of our behavior that are in us, in our DNA from back to Stone Age times.
Well, I mean, it's all very well to say that we should go against our Stone Age development. Our Stone Age is much too near. I mean, I think we should go back at least 100,000 years. But for instance, at one stage, I did some fishing in Cornwall. Now, if you go out in a fishing boat, danger is close, it's cold and wet. You don't want that. Men are naturally have naturally evolved to do those hard, wet, cold, dirty jobs. And a little while ago, I was just I think it was last winter, I was just driving down the motorway, and you see these road closures at night. It was raining, it was February, and they had these big lights up and, diversions. Every single person working on the road was a guy. You go to a building site, this is what we do. I mean, I know some people sit in offices and, pen push and whatever, and I do myself now. But society would collapse if men were not this kind of individual who put aside their immediate concerns. Oh, it's a bit cold today. I don't think I want to go out on that road job. The salty water splashed in my face. I don't think we can sort the fish for you, Captain.
Do you think this applies as well to putting the bins out, Mike? Do you think this applies to putting the bins out? Because I'm pretty sure my wife is convinced that that's something that's just that men should be doing, or certainly I should be doing.
Well, I think that there has been a sort of view which seems to have been quite stable, that there are what some people call pink jobs and blue jobs. And people have used the example that the man sweeps the yard and the woman sweeps the kitchen, kind of thing. And the division of labor like that does seem to be quite a stabilizing influence in relationships, because if nobody knows who's got to take the bins out, it just becomes an argument. So it does seem to me that we've gone to the kind of equality thing. We've gone a bit far on the equality thing. It's like, obviously, if you go to see your doctor and you see a female doctor or a male doctor, or you go to school and you have a female teacher or a male teacher, honestly, what's the difference? You cannot say that one is better than the other on the basis of their sex. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So there's got to be equality at one level in society, if you know what I mean. But the idea that men and women are bringing exactly the same contribution to the table is just untrue.
Yeah, it's a very interesting debate, and to the point where I know that you and I could be on this call for another 2 hours and still probably only just about scratch the surface. So the campaign that you've got for Minister for Men, tell us a little bit about it and how people can, more importantly, how people can get involved in it or support it.
Okay, so there's a petition up. The government allows you to put up petitions. This wasn't put up by us, but I should just point out that we're no longer asking for a minister for men. We're asking for a minister for men and boys. This is because we want to focus more on the issues than on the sex. That is, it's not that men as a whole are oppressed and need a minister. It's that men and boys suffer a limited number of significant problems. I mean, 75% of suicides is not a minor problem. Consistently underachievement of boys is not a minor problem. And so we need somebody to look after these. Okay. So if you want to sign the petition, you can just go online and search petition men boys, and it should take you to the petition page. You need to just put in your email address, and then it'll send you an email saying, is this really you? And you just have to press the accept link when it comes through. And this could be really valuable, because it's not that if we get enough signatures, we get a minister for men and boys. It's that if in a few months' time, because the petition will conclude in mid-April, if say by mid-April we can get a significant number of signatures, it's about 3,500 at the moment, so it's not nothing, but it's not really good enough. If we can get 7,000 or 8,000 in the next few months to demonstrate that people are concerned about these issues, then as an all-party group, we can then say to other parliamentarians, hey, look, lots of people do think this is an important issue. So it would just be really helpful, even if people have got reservations. I mean, a lot of people have got reservations about it. What do we want a minister for? We're not a bunch of wimps. I'm only quoting the Twitter responses.
You wouldn't expect any different, though, would you? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Or another one is there'd be no point. They just give it to a feminist.
Yeah.
Well, quite honestly, I'd be quite happy with a female minister for men and boys. There's plenty of women who are concerned about these issues. In fact, at a kind of one-to-one level, the people who seem to be most concerned are mothers of sons who are seeing strange things happen to them at school or at university. So
I think that is a very interesting one, and your point about boys is so relevant. And I'm thinking now, and I don't want to kind of underemphasize it, but I think with crime in particular, that's something that jumps out at me. Is I know even where I live, I'm up in the Manchester area, and young boys wandering around at 2, 3 in the morning menacingly, or is not uncommon. So that the impact, or even just with crime, the impact is massive to attempt to integrate boys into society, and I guess make them feel that they're worthwhile and they've got a contribution to make. Easier said than done, I know.
Yes, I think that if you just look over my lifetime, that there used to be far more in the way of youth club facilities for young people. I remember when I was a secondary school teacher in the noughties, a group of lads I can't remember how it came up, but they said the local authorities put a sign up in the local park which limits, you can't go in there if you're over 13. They made it under 13s only. He said, so where are we meant to go?
Yeah,
we can't go to the pub. So if you create a society in which boys are told you're not welcome, and that was in the noughties, we've had a further alienation where there's this sort of constant implication that boys are a problem, and we have the worrying situation today where some organizations are going into schools and telling boys that their toxic masculinity is a problem and they need to have a special training course to overcome. That is, we're telling boys that something which is not what they've done, but who they are genetically, is faulty. Well, this is not going to have a good outcome.
No.
If you alienate an entire generation, obviously not all of them, because plenty of them are in schools that don't do that, or parents who don't do that, or have interests, but where huge numbers of young men are switched off society because society is telling them they're fundamentally faulty, then they will become fundamentally faulty.
I think it's an absolutely fascinating debate, Mike, and thanks for joining us today on Dads Unlimited to share that. So some really good insight there. And I usually say, actually, I've done a lot of these interviews over many years, but I always get something out of most interviews, and this is no exception. It just makes me think slightly differently or give me some insight. So thank you on a personal level for sharing that today with us, and all the very best with getting the Minister for Men and Boys, as we now understand it, and all the very best, and keep us posted as to how you get on over the next few months.
Thank you very much, and just search Petition Men Boys and sign up. Thank you very much, Phil.
Yeah.